ZUMA here with ZUMA Concepts. Hey, I'm bringing you this video I promised I'd do on how to set up this adjustable scope mount, and I'm also going to cover a little bit on how I built this mount for the rheostat light that I use to light that up so that you can see it in low level lighting. I'm going to go through what I do on the range, how I document the numbers, how I adjust the scope, and then how I transfer that information to a clean piece of tape and how I apply that tape on here. I have an old setup off a different bow that I'm going to take apart and put back together so you get an idea how I do this at the beginning of season or at a fresh string change, and I know I need to resight the bow back in. All right, so looking closely here is the dial I was telling you about. There's my measurements, my increments, all the way out to 135. And then here is the rheostat, and that's how this lights up. You can go brighter and dimmer. And if you look here, this is that hose clamp. I cut it, bent the corners over so it didn't cut anybody while they were using it. And then, if you look, I have a bolt there that holds it in place, and this black bracket comes with the rheostat, it comes in the package. And then I just ran that bolt through with a self-locking nut and tightened that thing down into place. That was fairly simple. Nice fix for that option. Now to remove the old tape from last year, I already took the clear stuff off before I got the camera going. Apologize for that, but there was a clear strap around here, and then you peel this off, and what's underneath is the increments of measurement that come standard with the reel, the dial. And they give you even extras in case it gets messed up. These extras are how we're going to transfer the information over. What we're going to do is we're going to hit the range, and we're going to start, say, at 30 yards like I did, and then we set the dial all the way to 0. Then we go over to the scope. At our first set, at our 30 yards, we're going to sight the scope in. We're actually going to do our elevation and our left and right turret adjustment at the 30-yard mark. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go back. We're going to go back another 10 yards to 40 yards, and we're going to make our adjustment only with the dial this time. We're going to turn this to whatever it takes to hit another bullseye. You're not going to adjust your left and right at all at this point, unless you get out to 40 yards and you see you're slightly off. I'd shoot a couple arrows to make sure that you're actually off and you're not wiggling on accident. I generally won't make that adjustment again left and right till I get out to about 50 yards. And then I make the next adjustment, and it may be another 5 to 6, which is going to have us around the 13 mark. Then we carry on, say we go back to 50, and we're going to adjust, or we just did 50. So let's go back to 60, and we're going to be approximately at the 18 mark. Okay, and these are hypothetical. Like when you're out there in the range, it's going to be different. Your bow is going to shoot different than mine. You're going to have a different setup. Then you go back to 80 and say, well, that's an adjustment to 30. All the while you're documenting wherever this is to achieve a bullseye. You know, say you get to 30 and you shoot and it's like still a little low. All right, you're going to adjust up just a little bit more, give it an extra yard there or an extra mark. And you're going to mark that 31. And then what you're going to end up with is your notes. Your notes are going to look something like this. 30 yards is equal to 0. 40 yards is equal to 7. 50 yards is equal to 13. 60 yards is equal to 18. And so on and so on. Now I'm going to show you how I transfer this information to a clean piece of tape and then back to your dial. Okay, so I'm gonna take a piece of this tape, the 1/4 inch tape I told you to purchase off the web. It can be bigger than the strip, it doesn't matter, we can overlap. But we wanna lay it right next to this replacement strips. Now we're gonna use these replacement strips to transfer this information onto your fresh piece of tape. You really don't have to be too technical here. You wanna make sure that you had that on there nice and straight. Because if it's not straight, your lines aren't gonna be accurate and you're not gonna line back up when you go to do it. So any type of straight edge at this point, you just go down. So you're gonna start with your 0, obviously. Here's your 0. You're gonna put a 3 here for 30 yards. Then work this way, away from your ink, so you're not smearing it. And we're gonna go to the 6, because that's what we have. No, we had the 7. So we're gonna go to 7. That's what we had marked for our 40 yards. And then we're gonna put our 4. Then our next increment was 13. So we're gonna go to 13, and we're gonna put our next line. And our next line is 50 yards. So then our next one is 60 at 18. So we're gonna go to 18. And this is gonna be our 60. And then 70 is 23. And remember, these are hypothetical. I'm just running these through so I can show you what it looks like when you do it. Your numbers are not gonna be this. They're gonna be something different. If they are, it's a phenomenon, that's great, but likely gonna be something different. So then 80 is 30. Let's go to our 30. And then 90 is 36. And these numbers should, you know, I was saying 5 or 6 increments. It should increase. And one thing I noticed when I did this, it'll increase then decrease. And I believe the reason that's happening is because it's the arc of the arrow. It's hitting its fine point in the trajectory line. And so it's altering the way that it shows up on the dial. So don't be alarmed if you get in the middle and you moved 9 and then the next move you moved 6 again. That happens on both of these reels every time, and I'll show you real quick at the end here what I'm talking about. So then 90 yards is number 36, we got that. And then 100 yards is 42. So I'm not gonna go all the way to the end here. It's 100 yards. We'll just say 75 is equal to 130 yards. The reason I did this is because I just want to show how that last notch should line up when we start to put this thing on. Now I'm putting this on a little prematurely, so probably gonna have an issue with smearing the ink. I'd recommend when you do this that you just wait a little bit, let the ink dry. See, I already smudged that 3 up pretty bad. But you're gonna run this reel back to 0, and you're gonna start, your 3 is your 0, because that was your 30-yard mark. You're gonna line that up perfectly on your 0 mark and make sure that the line lines up. And then you're gonna slowly wrap this around and watch and say, okay, if you look, there's the red line, 1, 2, then you see how the 40-yard hits that 7 mark, 50-yard hits the 18. You're just gonna check those numbers as you're going. If you pull too tight, you'll stretch that and you won't hit the marks you're aiming for. And then 75 should be 30. Like that. Oops, bumped the camera. Then what I do is I go back and finish this by covering it with a piece of clear plastic. Now obviously I take a lot more time to do it on my bow that I'm running for the season, but I just wanted to get through this video to show you guys the steps needed to do something like that. Now, let me jump back and show you on this reel what I was talking about, how the gaps, if they change, don't be alarmed by it because it's common. if you look, the gaps all look pretty even from zero. You know, that's about an even run. That's about an even run, about an even. This is like that 5-6 range I'm talking about. And all of a sudden you get up here and obviously it's dipping more. Your arrows are gonna drop quicker. So there's a little longer run, there was a little longer run, and then your last one to where it maxes out. You should see a steady progression like that. It should be getting a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And you know, sometimes I pay close enough attention to it that I'll mark sometimes on my sheet, say it was marker 36, but it was just under 36, I'll put a line under the 36. Or if it was 30 and just over 30, put a line over 30. If it's 23 and dead on, I'll put a line next to 23. Those are little things for me to remember to mark it correctly, because I know that that's going to make a difference at them longer ranges. So that's the technical information of how I accomplish this. And like I said, if you get a worn string and you notice that your feet per second are dropping because you're using your chronograph, you can peel this thing off and re-sight your bow, and now you're adjusted to that different string and those different speeds. But again, keep an eye on those speeds just in case that dips on you again. If it dips on you twice, I wouldn't take any chances. I would probably get rid of it and get a new string put on there, whether you do it yourself or you have the pro shop do it. But definitely look into a new string if you find yourself changing this dial more than once. All right, well, that wraps up this tutorial. Hope I got you all the information you need. If I didn't, feel free to shoot me some questions. Visit my website. There's an information page there. You can check it out. I also put together some literature on this. I typed it up for you guys so you can read it on my website in case I wasn't clear. Again, feel free to ask questions. I'm happy to help with anything you got. If you think there's something I can help you with, if there's any ideas out there you want me to take a look at, like I said in the last video, feel free to shoot me a message, and anything cool enough to look at, I'm happy to tackle. I like a challenge. So it was cool helping you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed the video.